welcome back to Sunderland for our second visit to the World Shotokan Cup. In March of this year, the world's top Shotokan karate stylists converged on Sunderland's Crowtree Leisure Centre, England, to compete for some of the most prestigious karate titles in the world. Developed in the 1920s, Shotokan is one of the most popular and influential karate systems in the world. This competition combines both the sport with the martial art aspects of karate in some of the most dynamic karate action ever seen. I'm joined by Ronnie Christopher, third Dan, current British and European champion, who will bring us the insider's view of the action. In this programme, we will be seeing the best of the team fighting, as demonstrated here by Elwyn Hall. More of that later. But first, we start with the male team kata. So, Ronnie, it's the Belgian team.
That's right, yes it is. They're a very strong kata team. They usually do very well on the European circuit. And here you can see they're about to start a kata that we know as Goju Shio Sho, which is a very advanced kata. It's a very difficult kata to do. And as you can see, they're displaying very good martial spirit and what we call zanchin, awareness. And you can see that they look very determined, and they look as if they're displaying 100% concentration.
So in what is the essential difference here between team kata and individual kata?
Well, in the individual kata, you can move on your own time. Each time that you feel that you've finished your movements, you can move. In team kata, you have to try and synchronize your movements with your team members. So it is very, very difficult. And that's what they're actually trying to do. At the same time, they've got to try and duplicate each other's steps, try and make sure the steps are the right length so that they maintain the distances from each other. So it's a very difficult thing to do.
So it's not simply an exercise in technique, it's also an exercise in group work and discipline as a team. That's
right, and awareness, because obviously the discipline thing is very important because your team members are relying on you to get your part of it right. If one person makes a mistake, then all of them suffer through that one mistake. So it's a very disciplined thing, and you have to really concentrate 100%. You can't afford a mistake. It's strange that a small country like Belgium could produce so many karateka of international standard, but over the years I know they have. Yes, they have done, and they still are doing. But I wouldn't say that England's a big nation, and we've created or made some very reputable karate students. So, and I think most European nations, Europe is very strong karate-wise.
So again, as in fighting, size doesn't always mean quality.
No, it doesn't, no. It's the individual themselves.
But when we come to quality, then we come to the English team. Again, slight bias perhaps, but there you go.
Yes, here we have Frank Brennan, Gary Harford and Sean Roberts. Gary and Frank have performed team kata together for many years, but Sean is a newcomer to the team kata because we've had a few injuries during training and things like that, and Miles Draper, who normally would take that third position, is injured at the moment, so Sean Roberts has had to step in at very short notice, and he's had to practice with the lads. And of course Frank and Gary have got this sort of natural feel for the kata, and they can actually sense when each other are moving. Because obviously it's very difficult for Sean.
Of course, they've trained together since they were children, really, haven't they?
That's right, yes, and they've been doing team kata since they were on the junior under-21 team.
But as an individual performer, Sean's done very well, I believe.
Oh, Sean is very, very good. He's very good kata man. But obviously trying to work with a team is it's got its own restraints, and it's very difficult. It's a different thing altogether. There are a few spots where Sean's a little bit late. There's only a few little spots where he's a bit late, but of course at this level that can make all the difference.
However, having said that, still a very good performance.
Yes, it's still a very good performance, and at such short notice, it's very, very good to get this far in the World Championships. It's very good.
This is the American team, a relatively unknown quantity to most European competitors, I would think.
That's right, yes, I don't know very much about the Americans. We haven't seen that much of them. This is the first time in at least 2 years.
Of course, as Shotokan spread in the world, strangely enough, America was one of the first countries to receive a very high-grade Shotokan teacher, the famous karate master Hidetaka Nishiyama. So in America, Shotokan is very well established, with a number of large associations and some extremely good instructors. But on the international scene, over the last few years, they've been noticeable by their absence.
Yes, they have. I wouldn't really know why that is, but their standard is quite good. As you saw in the previous programme, when they were competing against the England team in the eliminations, they were very strong mentally and very good fighting.
America has a long tradition of practicing martial arts, and which they learned usually from Nishia Sensei, second and third generation Japanese. And now we see the Japanese team.
Yes, this is the Japanese team here. And obviously they're the hot favourites to actually take this title. And as you realise, this is the finals of the kata event.
Having said that, when I was in Japan last year, I saw the All Japan Championships, and I have to say, I wasn't as impressed by the Japanese team at that time as I have been in the past. They seemed maybe to be a little casual, but possibly today they've lifted the standard again.
Yes, I think they have lifted the standard, but what I think people have to remember is that the European nations are coming on all the time. Maybe in yesteryear, it was a different generation, a different feel, a different attitude, and of course the European nations are getting stronger all the time, so that might have some effect on it.
I guess in the past there was maybe some degree of feeling of inferiority to a Japanese. Among Westerners, you felt that somehow a Japanese was automatically a master.
Yes, I think you're definitely right there. But again, they're showing a good discipline in their movements, and it's well timed.
This kata they've chosen suits their physique tremendously well.
That's right, it does.
Very short, tight movements and that high jump.
Yes.
Of course, a very strong finish, which you'd expect from Japanese.
A very good performance.
Of course, as it happened, the Japanese won.
Yes, they did, and it was a very hard contested final, but the Japanese did come through and actually win the title. Yes, this is the England, this is the Italian team versus the Japanese
in the semis, I believe.
That's right, it is, yes. And the Italians, their first fight is a very strong fighter. He's got a very good attitude, as you can see by that exchange.
Again, the Italian karate team has always been, because of people like Shirai Sensei and people like that, have always had a good reputation.
Yeah.
I remember there was an Italian fighter a few years ago by the name of Dimichelis, who was a monster. Nobody wanted to fight him,
yes,
including many of the Japanese.
Yes, I've heard of him. But the Italian team have been displaying good fighting spirit all the way through the championships, and this was a culmination, really, of their efforts over the last couple of days. And this is obviously it's a big chance for the Italians, and they're going to put 100% effort into it.
It was interesting there. In a sense, the Italian fighter is actually fighting Japanese style.
Yes.
That is, he's going under the techniques and going forwards and countering.
Yes, he slipped that technique very well. And
this is the Japanese fighter Imamura, I believe.
That's right, it is. But he's facing a very strong opponent in this Italian lad. He's been fighting very well over the last couple of days. I believe the second Shotokan Cup in Sydney, wasn't it? That's right, it was in Australia 2 years ago.
And Imamura was more or less unstoppable then.
That's right, and he actually won the World Championships on that occasion.
Obviously with that kind of speed, that technique just missed. The referee indicated it went past, and therefore he wouldn't accept it. But it was very close to a score.
Yes, when you actually attack, you have to try and hit your opponent with a clean technique without his block being able to stop the technique.
And to what degree of power?
That's right. Obviously, good control has to be executed, otherwise there'll be a lot of injuries.
And here you can see the leg, and the shin kick in this case, actually.
Yes, it looks like it's a bit off target, actually, hit with his shin.
It's a very hard thing to judge, of course, at this kind of speed. It's easy to make mistakes.
That's right. And this is the third fighter now for Japan and for Italy.
Big boy.
Yes, he's Japanese chap, he's very big. He did a very good attack there, feinted with a kick, and came over the top with a Jodan punch.
Obviously using his body weight to advantage as well.
Yes, that's right, but he's unfortunate there, he didn't get a score at all. But there...
there he managed it, I would say.
That's right, well there, the Japanese lad telegraphed his movement, and the Italian lad went in and caught him before he could attack, which is a very good technique. And there again, the Japanese
moved forward, allowed it. I think the Italian controlled the distance quite nicely there.
That's right. Well, the Japanese contestant there attacked or feinted as though he was going to attack with a kick. And he came over the top with a punch again and caught his opponent.
Obviously the Japanese is determined to get this point.
But of course, you only need 2 half points to win a bout, and this Japanese gentleman has just managed to get his second half point. So he has won this bout. And again, this is another very strong Japanese opponent contestant, and a very strong Italian contestant also. At first clash, there was no score.
When both punch at the same time, there's no advantage?
No, it's called Oyuchi, which is simultaneous technique. So they both cancel each other out. Again, that was very close.
Very close.
But it looks as if the referees and the judges are signalling.
So normally you would have one referee in the centre and 4 corner judges.
That's right, yes. And they signalled the Japanese contestants actually scored there.
So that's how many? Two fights to Japan?
Well,
3 fights to
Japan?
Japan?
Yes, that's right. That was a very good attack there by the Italian gentleman. He caught the Japanese contestants off guard completely. And there was hardly any reaction. As you can see, he goes to block, but the block is ineffective.
So in a sense, this is an ideal technique. I know among Japanese teachers, they always say, you must find Suki, or your opponent's weakness, and then exploit that.
Here we have a very strong team in Denmark. They are a very, very strong team, very strong mental attitude, and very good fighters. And they're versus England, obviously.
Did you expect the Danish team to be so strong?
Yes, I did, because we've seen them in the European circuit. Elwin Hall was very unlucky there not to get a score. Yes. As you can see, when he attacks, he's very ferocious.
Yes, he blocks that kick very nicely,
yes,
goes in and takes the leg.
And then continues, sweeps his opponent. But the referee had already said Yame, you see, which means stop.
Although there
he actually goes for the score.
He does indicate, then changes his mind.
Then changes his mind. There's a very good back kick by Mr. Hall. But there they just end up grappling a bit and the referee stops them. But they're both displaying very good fighting spirit.
Obviously, Elwin's determined to put his man on the floor. I suppose if you're fighting a tall opponent and you can put him down a few times, the psychological edge it gives you is tremendous.
That's right, yes, definitely. It looks as if Elwin missed with his counter, but the chap from Denmark actually got his in, so Elwin's half a point down here. He needs to try and get it back.
Yes, that crouched over style. Wow. Very nice punch from the Dane.
Yes, so they both went in there actually, but Elwin's attack was short. So they've given the bout to the chap from Denmark.
So that means Britain is one fight down.
Yes, Frank Brennan does a beautiful kick there. He catches his opponent completely off guard.
And of course that's Frank's strength. His ability to seize the opportunity. In fact, you can see it there.
Yes, again he caught his opponent completely off guard with a very good stomach kick. And that wins his bout there.
So that brings them level. Now, of course, against such a strong team, it's vital that Britain wins this. They have to if they're going to make the final against the Japanese.
That's right, because this is the semi-final. And if they want to get through to the final, they've got to win this actual bout against Denmark.
So
that's a very good attack there from the Dane, and actually got into Tudan there. But obviously Dean's now got to try and get it back for England.
I'm sure being a determined fighter, well, as we can see, he definitely is.
Yes, and it looks as if he's going to get a score there. He's actually going to get scored. So now they've both got it all to do if they want to try and make it so that their team members don't have to work too hard.
Yes, because obviously this being the third fight sets the trend.
That's right.
2-1. And it looks Yes.
Yes, so it looks as if the Dane did actually get that score then, so it's 2-1.
So Britain's
Denmark.
down to...
Ronnie Cannings is a beautiful attack there.
In fact, it's so good the Dane doesn't believe it.
That's right, yes, beautiful, because the pressure is on now. We're 2-1 down.
And half a point up in this particular fight.
That's right. So now the Dane has got it all to do now.
So if the Dane can win this one...
Again, Ronnie Cannings catches him on his way in and using what we call timing, halfway through an opponent's attack, and catches him, so it's 2-2 now. It's all down to Gary Harford now.
Well, we've seen Gary do this before in the Europeans.
That's right, but I mean, being put last, it's a terrible position to be in, and now he has to display all the fighting speed he possibly has, and determination.
And we all know he's got tremendous determination.
So, of course, when they're in a position like this with so much pressure, tempers do get a bit heated, but they must always show good sportsmanship.
Yes, I think it's important at this point to point out that traditional karate stresses that karate begins and ends with courtesy.
Yes.
And although initially on the surface it may appear a little wild, underneath is the concept of control and self-discipline all the time.
So Gary Harford's actually winning now, and there he scores the second half points. His opponent rushes in and he catches him on the way in, and that's it.
So this puts the British team through
into the final.
Japanese.
That's right. So now the British team are ready to meet.
Of course, there's Andy Sherry, who's the British team coach and manager, very happy. Team kata, and the favourites to win, Japan.
That's right. Yes, and everybody's been looking forward to seeing them actually compete now in the final in the team kata.
It's very interesting in a way that at one time the women's events were considered to be subsidiary to the male, but it's certainly in kata, I would say my own feeling is that the quality of the women's kata now surpasses the men's very often.
Oh, very much so. They set a very good example for everybody to follow in the way that they conduct themselves and everything, and in their attitudes, their determination, the spirit, everything absolutely brilliant, and their technical ability.
Oh, the quality is second to none.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I remember many years ago watching Kawashima. She was then the Japanese kata champion. She was only 17 or 18 years old, and when I watched her I thought, well, I've wasted about 10 years of my life. I'll never be able to do that. But it's not really wasted. It's just you wonder, can you ever equal that kind of performance?
Yes, well, they actually do set a very good example in the way that they behave off the mat as well, because being a champion doesn't just mean that you win things, it means that it also should reflect the way that you behave as well.
So the quality of life is very important.
That's right, very much so. And here, I mean, when you are actually doing kata, you should be imagining that you've got various opponents and you're defending yourself against those opponents. And you'll probably notice that when kata is performed, it always starts with a block first. It's never an attack.
Of course, that's in line with the first of Gichin Funakoshi's precepts. Karate ni sentanash. There is no first attack in karate, which gives the moral quality to the art. Without that, as the old teacher said, karate is no more than brutality.
That's right.
We have the ladies team, the British team.
That's right. We've got Winnie Hatton in the front, Julie Carter and Christine Pullen. And they're doing a kata that we call Goju Shiho Show.
Of course, I'm biased towards these three, as I know them very well.
Yes. And they look as if they're up to their usual standard. And they actually are, yes.
They're moving very well together at the moment.
That's right. Very well timed. Good zanchin, which is awareness. Very good kime, which is focus. Very good stops. And they're very well synchronized as well. But of course, it's very competitive, and all of the teams that are actually through to the finals are very much on the same level. It only needs one little mistake to decide who is going to actually get a gold medal or a silver medal.
Yes,
so
the difference is tiny, isn't it?
That's right, because it's very hotly contested. Very hotly contested.
So far, they look very good to me.
That's right, they are, yes. They're very nicely timed. They're together, moving very well.
Of course, it's a terrible psychological thing to go against the Japanese team.
That's right, and especially knowing that they are so good and having to follow them, which is very difficult anyway. Having to follow them when they're actually on form the way they are. It's very daunting.
Of course, All these three ladies are all well experienced at international level.
That's right, they are very experienced.
This is the Spanish team.
Yes, we don't often see the Spanish team, the Spanish ladies kata team in competition, and they've done very well to get to the final. I think they've shocked a few people.
I think karate has gone through a big boom in Spain over the last maybe 2 decades or so, because I believe that at one time it was banned. It wasn't acceptable for practice. So they've done extremely well in, say, 20 years to have lifted themselves to this level. Not just in Shotokan, but in other styles as well.
Ah, yes, because there are some very famous Spanish karateka that are known throughout the world, actually, in karate circles, that is. Yes, they're moving very well, and it's well timed, and also they're displaying very good Zanchin awareness.
And a very strong ki.
That's right, they look very determined, and a very good performance,
However, as you'd expect, Japan won.
That's right, the Japanese ladies team came first.
So we have the final, the team final, the highlight of the tournament.
That's right, yes. This is a position that most of the British lads have only ever dreamed of, never imagined they'd get this far.
I know the Japanese team have only been defeated, I think, 3 times.
Yes, I think you're right.
And the second time, the second time was a British team in the 70s.
Well, actually, this is a repeat of the last World Championships in Australia. As you can see, Alvin Hall there, being as ferocious as ever. Yes, in the last World Championships in Australia, the English team managed to get through to the finals, and it was England versus Japan, but on that occasion, the English team were beaten.
Was it by much?
It wasn't, no. It was very, very close, you know, but it's one of those things.
So in a sense, this is kind of England's chance at revenge here.
That's right, very much so, yes.
Of course, for the Japanese, the pressure's on as well.
Oh, yes, very much so, very much so.
Especially for this Japanese fighter who Elwin defeated in the individuals.
That's right, he did defeat him in the individuals, and as you can see, Elwin's very determined to try and make sure he does well for his teammates.
Yeah, so it's important the first fight. I think if you win the first fight, it lifts the team, gives them confidence.
That's right. Well, you can see that when the lads are actually fighting the team, they're very determined because they realise that everybody, all their team members, are relying on them to do their bit. And in an individual event, you can just do your own thing. But in the team, there's an excellent punch there.
Very strong.
Excellent punch there by Elwin Hall. And as you can see, his opponent isn't seriously injured. But it was a very good punch, very well timed.
Terrible blow to his confidence, though.
That's right. So you can see that Elwin moved. An excellent punch there. His Japanese opponent is completely shocked by the speed and the timing of the attack.
Straight into the attack.
So now the Japanese opponent has got it all to do. And again, Elwin catches him again on his way in. An excellent Kazamazuka, a repeat of what he did earlier.
This is Frank with Imamura.
That's right, Frank Brennan versus Imamura. And again, Imamura's determined to try and get it back because the Japanese are down by 1 fight now.
Again, a terrible position by Imamura because Frank is the man that they worry about.
And that's an excellent kick by Frank Brennan. As he kicked, Imamura tried to move in and catch him, but the kick was right to him and stopped him dead in his tracks. Excellent kick. There's only seconds to go now. And the time's gone.
So Britain is now 2 fights up.
That's right.
3 fighters to go.
That's right, because bouts usually last around 3 minutes, and you have to either score 2 half points or 1 full point to win in that time.
Now this Japanese fighter knows that if he can't win this fight, then Japan's lost.
That's right, yes, so it's all on this fight now.
And of course Dean realises the same. If he can win, even by half point, then Britain has won the World Championships.
That's right, you're correct.
So both determined to do their level best.
So there's a lot of pressure, and if you can imagine, I mean, this is Dean's first international bout as a senior, and look at the way he's performed. Absolutely brilliant, such determination.
Yes, he's
very good.
He certainly lifted his standard under the pressure. Some people would crumple, but he's moved up.
He certainly has. He's gone up a gear. He's doing very well. He's still very determined.
Yes. Nice throw, unfortunately illegal.
Yes, and as you can imagine, I mean, the pressure's on and everything, so...
Just try that a little bit too hard.
That's right, yes. Both fighters are equally determined, realising how serious this actual fight is. This can determine whether the Japanese lose and England actually win.
Ted Headland, who is the referee, is using the corner judges very well.
Yes, he
and
is.
there Britain's won.
And
as
of
you can
course,
see from the audience.
Of course, you can see that some of the fighters will probably get a little bit emotional because it's something that they've only ever dreamed of, never actually thought it would ever come to pass.
And there's certainly Andy Sherry, Andy as usual.
Yes.
Very calm face.
Andy's always very calm, yes, very calm. Well, that's a brilliant victory for the lads. Of course, I'm very disappointed that I couldn't actually compete in the team, even though I'd been selected to do so because of my injuries, but maybe next time.
Oh, I would say definitely next time. Well, that's all for this coverage of the World Championships. Hope you enjoyed it. Next one is in Tokyo, and give the Japanese a chance to regain the team championships. Should be very exciting. Thanks, Ronnie, for all your help.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me along.
Okay. Keep watching.